On the streets of Fort Myers more than 3 decades ago, notorious serial killer Samuel Little, who died in 2020, says he killed a young woman and dumped her body. Before he died, Little drew pictures of several of his victims. In the Fort Myers case, he drew 2 of them. She may have had shorter hair, like the woman on the left, or longer hair, like the woman on the right. The year was 1984, or maybe it was 1990 or 91.
This opportunity popped up.
The details in his confessions aren't always precise, but Dr. David Thomas with FGCU, an expert on serial killer and criminal behavior, believes those confessions are worth listening to.
Based on the fact that so many of them have been confirmed, based on the details that he have, do you have any reason to believe that he's not telling the truth?
No, I believe he's absolutely positively telling the truth. But the other part of that is we can't corroborate because they can't find the bodies.
The retired Gainesville officer and forensics professor has studied the Samuel Little case, which stretches from coast to coast. The FBI says Little killed at least 50 women, but he's confessed to 43 more. He died in late 2020, but he left behind dozens of drawings of his victims, including a Miami transgender woman named Mary Ann.
I seen her down at the Guar on 17th Avenue, and she had on a short cream miniskirt.
You're listening to part of his detailed confession about Mary Ann's 1972 murder obtained by Fox 4 Investigates. Now, just like the Fort Myers confession, which hasn't been released, Mary Ann's murder has never been confirmed.
And where'd you take her to?
Continue down 27. Got back on 27.
Going outside of Miami. Okay.
Miami.
Going away from Miami.
Going away from Miami. We got down past the let's say limits. So I continued on toward Fort Lauderdale, and I seen a road going off the main road back into the vegetation on the left side.
How is it that a man can have this many murders all over the country for so long? How does something like that happen?
Most of those guys prey on the victims who are fairly unnoticed in our society. So they're drug addicts and homeless, and I would also say prostitutes. So those become a very easy group to prey on.
The Georgia-born Little says he committed his first murder in 1970. In 1984, he was tried and acquitted for killing a Gainesville woman. And then his killing spree continued. 30 years later, Little was finally taken off the streets for good, but by this point, he claims to have killed more than 90 women, including a dozen here in Florida. Here in Fort Myers, Little says he met his victim on Nelson Street, just a block or so away from US 41. In all cases, the former prizefighter used his hands as his weapon of choice. He would knock the women unconscious, usually with a single punch, and then strangle them to death. Without things like stab marks or bullet wounds, the FBI believes the murders were labeled as natural causes or drug overdoses. From Nelson Street, Little says he drove her to a wooded, grassy island not far out of town, strangled her, and left her body near the railroad tracks. But after years of investigating, Thomas says there's a reason local authorities have never found a victim.
If you look at like our weather, where it does not preserve a body, and it doesn't take long for that body to decompose, so you're gonna have very little.
In fact, in many of his Florida confessions, Little claims he left the bodies in the Everglades.
Pulled her out and drug her into the growth back there and pulled her deeper into there's a path. A little path was running somewhere. I don't know where it led it to, but it was running deeper into the undergrowth. It's like Everglades.
Little has been tied to 4 confirmed murders in Florida. 8 of his confessions are unmatched in the state, along with dozens more nationally. Unfortunately, many experts believe some of those murders may ultimately never be solved. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.